So at this juncture is where we get into the main event, and we see that we have one of our guests has joined us already here this afternoon in the person of Senator Terry Noel. Good afternoon, Senator Noel, and welcome once again to GEM FM and to the Comfort Zone.
And good afternoon to you, Pablo, and I see Mr. Callis there on the other side there. But good afternoon, technical side of things. But good afternoon to you all, and you all been doing a wonderful job. I've been paying attention, and good afternoon also to Grenadians, Grenadian Carriacou, and PT Matnik, and the Grenadian in the diaspora. And if anybody in St. Vincent is listening on, which I know they're in some kind of discomfort right now, but my praise and thoughts goes out to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, our next door neighbor, going through some serious issues.
Yeah, it is a trying time for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines right now, and I saw some very graphic. I saw some very graphic videos, that showed the explosion and so taking place, and I mean it's kind of frightening, even at that distance,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I trust that things would not escalate any further, and they would be able to return to some normalcy within a short time. But we see that throughout CARICOM, most of the governments throughout CARICOM have been reaching out to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and offering their assistance in different shapes and forms, and we see that the option of St. Vincentians, coming to spend some time with us here or in Trinidad or in Barbados, we see that offer has been open. In our case, Grenada will only be accepting those who have been vaccinated, I understand, according to the report that's come out from government circles. Okay, so we have Brother Senator Noel with us.
Mm-hmm.
I've been expecting Brother Senator Matthew Joseph. I haven't seen him.
Just Pablo, I've seen he's trying to call me here now, so maybe he's trying to get on.
Oh, maybe he's trying to get on.
So maybe one of your team need to give him a call.
I'm not. Yeah, I see he sent me something. Yeah, well.
What name is on the live? Because there's two persons there, and none of them says Matthew Joseph. Sherry and Joseph is there. Is this him?
Yeah. Take that one.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, he may be using one of his family.
Yeah, he must be using. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And who is okay? So he's been there for a while.
Yeah, he was just saying that to me, that he's been there.
Okay.
Waiting to get in.
All right.
Hey, man.
All right. Turn your video on.
Turn on my video. Let me see. Yeah, hold on. Let me see if it's on. You might see me as Sherry.
Right, we got you. Yeah, man, we see you now.
You might see me as Sherry and Joseph, right?
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
Right. There's some light at the background. Let me just jump that.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a lot of light in the background. Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
It's better now?
Yeah, it's better. It's better. So, good afternoon one time, and welcome to you, Senator Joseph. Yeah. Welcome once again to the Comfort Zone. It's a pleasure to have you.
Pablo, adjust your camera. You sing down. I seen from your chin up. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, better. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yes, Senator Joseph. Yeah, as I was saying, good afternoon once again and welcome to the comfort zone. Yeah. Um, I Let's start with both of you are senators, and one is from the east and the other is from the west. And although your senatorial appointment was not to do with which area you come from, how do you see yourself? First, I should ask, what ultimately, when we hear about a senator, you do not represent one of those special interest group like agriculture. I had the agriculture senator here last week, and you do not represent such an interest group. So essentially, you've been appointed by a political entity. So you do not have any special geographic connection, I should say. So what are the responsibilities of a senator in that situation? And what do you see you bringing to the upliftment of your particular community or area, in spite of the fact that your appointment doesn't have to do necessarily with your geographic designation?
Yeah, who should go first, me or Senator Noel?
Yeah, because Senator Noel was here before you, sir.
Okay, right. Yeah, well, the thing about it is that, the wise men came from the east, right? So Senator this is why I was wondering who should go first, Yeah. First of all, I just want to say it's nice to be on the show once again. I know some time ago I was here, probably about a month or 6 weeks ago, I was on the show, and it was a pleasure. So it's a pleasure once again to be here. Before I start, I just want to, first of all, just to empathize a little bit with the people in St. Vincent. And I really don't want to forget that, because I've been over the years very close to St. Vincent. I have a number of friends. We studied in Trinidad together. And in addition to that, I have a number of young people from St. Vincent who normally come down to Grenada to play in our steel band for Carnival. So my heart goes out to them. I've been in touch with most of them on a daily basis, and it's a number of challenges out there that they have to face. But they are coping. It's an act of God, and people get over it. Yeah, in relation to the question, senators normally are what you call checks and balances within the system. That's basically what we are. What I would do, and what senators normally do, is that they try to be they should try to be as objective as possible. The government senators on the other side, I really don't want to speak too much for them, but I'm saying this is what senators should do, because when bills are done in the lower house, it is passed on to us as senators in the upper house. And what we do is we scrutinize and in an objective way, as it should be. And if there are things that we are not too happy with, then we send it back up. But you know how it is with party politics. Sometimes there are things there that are not supposed to be there. And because of the politics and the way it is, things sometimes don't, they don't happen as they're supposed to be. Yeah, as a senator from the western side, I don't see myself as a senator from the western side per se, but I see myself as a senator serving the nation and serving the good of the nation. I am going to open my mouth when I think it's right and the proper thing to do. I would not be a rubber stamp for anything or for anybody. And at the end of the day, my service should be recognized, and people remember me for just being a good person who was there doing the interests and serving the interests of the ordinary person in this country. and that's how I see my calling within the Senate.
Senator Noel, what about you?
Yeah, well, I share the same sentiment as Senator Joseph has just mentioned, which is important in any democracy, as it regards to the checks and balances that you just mentioned. And we play a pivotal role because the buck stopped with us to a certain extent. Despite the bills and so on would have passed through the lower house with the ministers and the executive, the prime minister and so on, table these bills, but initially they would come to the Senate, where we scrutinize. We are the one that really, the truth is, supposed to be really scrutinizing these bills to ensure that it's all in the interest of the population, or for the good of the people. And so our role is really, truthfully, a holistic approach, despite we're from different parts of the country. But I was pleased to see, because Senator Joseph came on, his appointment came on a bit after my appointment, and Senator Sincere. So I was pleased to see that not a senator from the western side, because you don't want to have a one-sided kind of approach and so on. And I mean, we try to be objective, as you say, as much as possible. And we might have little biases happen, because sometimes you're from your territory, you tend to take your territory seriously, which I tend to look in the interests a lot, in the St. Andrews interest. I've been lobbying for that and agitating and advocating in that area since before I came as senator and so on, which I think not much has been done in my area over the years since 2013, since this new government has taken up the reins. So I've been speaking out on that. But I'm very happy to see from the western side, because in my view, not much has been going on that side as well, both the east and the west. I'm seeing a bit happening in St. Patrick's now, a little happening up in the north, some projects and so on happening there, one or two, and a little bit in St. David's and so on, but nothing on the east side, which is in St. Andrew's side, and on the west side, which is Gove and St. John and mainly St. John. I haven't seen anything of this sort happening there. But this is our role, and it's a holistic approach, and we have to look in the interest of the entire country, and as it regards to bills and so on, and legislating legislators and so on, part of the Senate.
Okay, Senator Noel, I want to get back to you on you mentioned about you having been doing stuff since before your appointment, your senatorial appointment, and I want to get back a little bit into that shortly. But before I do that, I want to put out that question to the both of you. That being said, with what you say, senator's responsibilities are, does that mean that a senator ought not to have, or does a senator have an office space where one can visit that senator and they can conduct whatever business a senator is supposed to conduct? And if not, why? And if a senator does need an office space, what are the uses would that office space be put to?
Let me just say quickly, we don't have an office space. I'm not certain if Senator Joseph has one, but in the Caribbean, within the context of the Caribbean and the Westminster system, I was paying a little attention to the U.S. When they had the Capitol Hill. The mob ended up in Capitol Hill there. And I've noticed that the senators have well organized, in this kind of democracy. They have their office, they have secretary, they have, even in Trinidad, compared to senators here in Grenada and maybe the smaller islands, they are well organized with a secretary, a little office and so on, but not here, and not for us. We don't have one. So let Senator Joseph,
Yeah, well, my office is right here where I am right now. That's the bottom line. But that's a very critical question, and I think this is something that the system needs to look into. Because if you have to solve with dignity and have some respect, I think you need the infrastructure and you need the support system to get it done. Well, let me just shift gear a little bit. If you look at the leader of the opposition, he has an office space and a secretary full stop, not even a printer. Not even a printer. So if he's getting that kind of treatment, I mean, just think of the senators on the other side. You see, the whole system is structured in such a way as to, and we may not like it, but that's how it is, as to reduce the influence of the opposition elements, the opposition senators within the parliament. And we need to look, and again, I'm very happy that you raised this point, we need to look into that in terms of a space where we can meet people, where we can discuss issues with people, and at the same time have some kind of print material, equipment and so on, that we can get certain things done. Because all we do right now is that we just wait on the parliament to send certain things for us, and then we go through it, we read, we discuss, and then we present. But we need that support system. So maybe going forward, we may have to start articulating for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just add, Pablo, sometimes before Senate, when I have my little presentation and so on to do, I would have to rush down to Lagoon Road in one of the computer places there to get it print, and still have to rush back to the Senate, and time is of essence when you have to present and so on, which is important, as he just mentioned. So these are things, like he said, they prevent they're doing in their interest. They try to prevent the opposition senators from able to perform their duty as they actually should.
I don't know. I get very concerned about things like that, when there is that level of obstruction from people being, able to carry out the tasks and responsibility as mandated to them under the Constitution. And when you see these kind of obstructions being put in the way, it makes you ask the question as to how genuine are we about national development? How genuine are we when we speak about us coming together and working as one people and as one nation? And it's very troubling. It's a very troubling situation. And speaking about the structure and the system under which we work, we see that within Parliament, it's like people have the what's the word that I'm looking for? They have the authorization or the authority to say certain things and to do certain things. They have a certain level of immunity. Things that they would say or be charged for or could be held accountable for, if they were to say it outside of Parliament. They have parliamentary protection in saying certain things and making certain allegations, even though when they know that it's untrue. But they can't come out in the public domain and say it, because if they do it out there, you could sue them. What's your thinking about a system like that allows people, the people who you're supposed to be looking up to, the people who are supposed to be looking by example, they have immunity to lie and to mislead. And when they've taken off that hat, they can't.
Yeah, Pablo, I just want to say that.
Yeah.
For the democracy to work as as it's supposed to, certain things need to be in place. And if they are not in place, then the democracy just would not be able to work 100%. Okay. And the people with the authority, so to speak, they are ensuring that these things are just not there so that the democracy would work in their favor. Let's take, for example, we as senators should have access to our secretary. We should have access to our secretary. I'm not talking about the secretary that the leader of the opposition has. The leader of the opposition has his work cut out for him. But we should have access to this. We should have access to print material. We should have access to printing material. But all these things are not available. So we have to work with the limited resources that we have to deliver to the optimum. And that is a challenge. That is a challenge in itself. So, you know, we just have to do what we have to do with whatever we have, and try to solve as best we can and deliver as best we can. I just want to come back to the question, but I sort of lost the question. Just briefly, just rehearse it again for me.
Oh, I was saying that the system that we have allows for parliamentarians to
to say what they want.
It give them that kind of immunity.
Yeah.
And things that they cannot say out there in the public domain, they're protected under parliament in parliament to do that, you know.
Yes, Pablo. This is very interesting. But it boils down to the individual and individual responsibility. Now, if you know something is incorrect, and let me tell you something, Pablo. Over the years, we all listen to parliamentary debates and so on. And many times politicians speak half-truth. But a half-truth is a half-lie. Most likely it's a half-lie. And a half-lie is a lie. You understand? A half-lie is a lie. And it's a very dangerous thing. Very, very dangerous thing. And I think some of the politicians, they know exactly what they are doing. And they know what they are saying. But when the thing goes out there, it is already out there. You can't take it back. So they send the half-truth, or they send the lie out there. And the lie start to move on, and the half-truth start moving on. And they get what they want done. Even though later on they try to revoke and say, this is not what I intended to say. But they know exactly what they are doing. And it boils down to one thing. Honesty. Honesty and integrity. And if the individuals don't have that, well, forget it. And there are a lot of people around the politics with no integrity whatsoever. They say what they want to get what they want done in the short term, and they don't care too much about what happens afterwards. Yeah.
Let me just add, Pablo, because I just want to highlight this, because as regards to the Senate and senators and so on. And now that we have official opposition installed, and the gross disrespect that we find out was meted out to us by the government at times. One of these I did mention it in the Senate in my speech, which is the debate, the budget debate, where you had the maiden speech, which is a pretense to the actual budget, where the Governor General would give the maiden throne speech. Yeah. And one I've noticed in the throne speeches, which is usually a joint sitting between the Senate and the lower house, on that occasion. And you have the media there, and you would think that is the first time, I think probably in maybe over 10 years or more, because you would have had over the years, just one political party winning all the seats. So for the first time, you have official opposition installed, and the opposition leader was sitting on the side of the lower house there, and we were on the other side of the Senate. And when I listened, the commentary, not a single word was mentioned, to the extent to say that Grenada, no, the fact that we have an official opposition, no attention was given at all to the senators, the opposition leader. And imagine that, the media, and which is, like Senator Joseph had mentioned, checks and balances, which is ideal, which is very important for a democracy to run properly. And nothing of the sort was mentioned, And it just, even it went further, that when they interviewed the Prime Minister, he went as far as to say, when they asked him about the opposition, he asked, who opposition? It's like, there's no opposition, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so this is some of the, the things that's happening, and it's sad to say, because we know opposition, and having an opposition installed, which is good for democracy and good for the upliftment and development of this country, is just pushed aside.
Pablo, let me just add. Let me just add something here.
Go ahead.
The last time the Senate met was in January,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of January. We were supposed to meet on the 10th of last month, and that meeting was postponed. And up to now, we are what, April?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So between January and April, only had one sitting. And this to me is a bit of cause for, cause for concern. Because I think the Senate should meet as often as possible. I'm not saying once a month or twice a month, but I think as often but much more than once every 3 months, as the case may be. Because there are so many issues in the country, there are so many things going on that we need to discuss. But that's how it is. That's just how it is.
Before we get into those issues that we need to discuss, there is one issue that I wish to discuss with you, Senator Joseph. Both you and Senator Noel are appointees of opposition leader Tobias Clement. But even at the announcement of your appointment, there was writings about you and the relationship with the National Democratic Congress. Can you tell us the status of that relationship and what is the state of things with you as a representative for the official opposition, which is a different entity from the NDC, the official opposition party in the country?
Yeah, I should answer it. I would answer it that way. I am still very close to the NDC, very, very close to the NDC. As a matter of fact, when I met with Mr. Tobias, the initial discussion, I made it very clear to him that I'm very close to the NDC. And some people were a little concerned, oh, he's close to the NDC and he's close to Mr. Tobias, what's really going on? But I just want to make it clear, Mr. Tobias at this point in time does not have a political party. We had a discussion before I accepted the position of senator, and he virtually gave me a free rein to articulate issues. And this is what I'm doing. So in short, I'm still very, very close to the NDC, very close to the NDC. Yeah, so I just want to leave it here for now.
Speaking of articulating on issues, now you are both senators, as I said, on the opposition bench. You, the three of you, well, two of you are in the Senate. You go into the Senate. How do you determine who speaks to what issue? Do you just go there and everybody just open their mouth and talk? I mean, there's a wide range of issues nationally, and you go into a sitting of the Senate. You know, who says what? How do you determine who says what?
Well, maybe should just quickly answer that one because I've been there a little bit before Senator Joseph. Yeah. And as it pertains to the budget, we did met and sat down and discuss the way we was going to approach and who was going to be the main speaker on the opposition, as far as the opposition senators were concerned, which was the main speaker there, and in the rebuttal of the budget was Senator Tessa Sincere, and so on. And then we also went on to discuss the topics that we would speak on. So we actually had a little plan, but that was pertaining to the budget debate. And then in some cases, no doubt that some of the things or the topics may overlap, because sometimes I may overlap into a little topic, something that she would have been speaking on. Because due to the fact, like I mentioned to them, that I live right next to the Maribor Princess Alice Hospital, so it's difficult for me not to speak on that, even though she have a topic on health, because I think our area is public health and so on. So we create a little leeway for that, where the little things overlap here and there, but we did have a strategy where it's concerned, especially with budget and debates and so is concerned. Some of the other debates, we are a little bit lenient, because we're just responding mainly to maybe a bill or if we question that we have on the other paper that we have to ask, or a motion that was moved and so on. So we'd have a strategy for that. But most of the time, you have some of the bills have been brought on by the government that we look into respond to the bill, and we have that kind of leniency between each other where we do our own thing and we respond in a certain way.
Yeah. We see that you have been writing, as you mentioned a while ago, a long time before you got before you were appointed as a senator. And we see that, and it dates back to all into the 2014. I'm seeing articles from 2014 coming through the Times. What was some of the issues that you would have addressed during that period, and what would have driven you to rise to that level and to take these positions?
Yeah, well, I started to have an interest in politics, and I feel I should play a major role in advocating and so on. And through writing, I was inspired by a friend who, while I was studying, wrote an article while we were studying at Keville, something to do with the taxation. He's Randy Cadet. I think he's working somewhere in the Ministry of Finance now. And then I started, so I always tell him that, I don't hide it. He inspired me to write. And by living in Barbados, I noticed that was the way to go. Bajans, people in Barbados and some of the lecturers there, and people who study tend to write a lot and articulate through their writing. And I was also inspired by that. So even before I moved back from Barbados, I wrote my very first article, which was talking about the Maurice Bishop, former resident, the revolutionary leader, former resident at Mount Wildale, restoring it into its original state. And it's almost like a kind of museum in a sense, because they go into the fact that we in Grenada is the only country in the English-speaking Caribbean to wage revolution. So there's something extra that we have, which we could offer and link it to tourism that other countries in the Caribbean don't have.
Is that the one that was headed the destruction of a revolutionary
heritage? Yes, okay. That was the name of it, the destruction of a revolutionary heritage. And my background in studying too was history with political science. So owing to the fact that I studied in the area, I thought that I should articulate and write and so on, and make my contribution wherever I could see fit to make it. And hence the reason why I started writing, and that was one of my very first articles on the Maurice Bishop. And I'm a kind of fan of Maurice Bishop, admire him, and I believe that it's a good link, because owing to the fact that tourism is a highly competitive industry, because you have all the Caribbean countries are mainly involved in tourism. So there must be something different that I think is good that you should offer. Similar, maybe Cuba is a Spanish-speaking country who is a revolutionary country, and I think other people, except the Americans, travel there. So we have to take, whatever benefits we could bring to the country. I think that is important for ourselves. And owing to the fact that I realized Grenada don't value history too. When I looked at other countries as compared to Barbados and so on, in those countries they have statues and names of great people who would have contributed significantly to the state all over Barbados, statues of all the past prime ministers and heroes and so on. And so some of I was influenced by that, and that's just one of the articles that I did, and there's of course more that I did as well.
Yeah, so, I just want to.
Yeah, come in, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to. I think it's a wonderful idea. It's a wonderful idea. And if you look at what happened over time in terms of our history, I don't know, that there seemed to be an orchestrated plan to bury our past, and it's not good for the children going forward. Let's take, for example, when we were going to school, Pablo. What we knew about the Fedon Revolution was that Fedon invaded St. Guave and Grenville, and he took the British subjects up to Belvedere, and he executed them. There was a massacre, and the cause of that Fedon revolution was never really articulated. Now, it seems as though we are following a pattern. And now we are trying the best way we can to bury the recent history of the revolution. And kids in grade 5 and grade 6 now, they know very little. about what happened just less than 40 years ago, you know. And this is why this plan of Senator Noel, or this thinking of Senator Noel, is so instructive. Because if we could go down that route and redesign the building and put a museum in the building, then this will be there for posterity. And then the young people, look, I was in Cuba in the 70s, probably it was 1982, I think it was. And there's a revolutionary museum there. I think it's called Museum of the Revolution. So Museum of the Revolution doesn't mean that the museum should be there because the revolution is there. It is even more important to have the Museum of the Revolution when the revolution is gone, so that we can relive the history. And the young people could go in there on tours, they could do projects, they could do research, such and so on this particular aspect of our history. But it seems, you know, I don't know, we just seem to be burying everything and just hoping that things will just go away because we don't want to speak to it. So this is why Senator Noel endeavor is so creditable.
Yeah, definitely. We do seem to have a very serious problem with this whole issue of archiving our experiences and those things that make us who we are. And life can be like that in our life's experiences. Not everything that we experience would be favorable, and so we have to take the bitter with the sweet, and it's all of that come together to make us who we are, and to help us to grow and to develop, to come up with a construct and a development agenda that is suitable to our situation. And unfortunately, there is not an inclination in that direction in our country, but we seem to have a preference for other things. That being said, mention was made a while ago about the last time the Senate met, and that we're into a new budgetary cycle. It's the first quarter has gone, and we know that the projection, according to the presentation from our last budget, is for, I believe, it's 6% growth. And there were a number of things coming out of there that are supposed to be taking place during this period and going forward, in order to ascertain that we experience the growth that has been projected. Can any of you goodly gentlemen share with us as to where you think we are at this juncture in terms of the delivery on that budget and the projections and expectations coming out of that budget, this 2021 budget as presented by the government?
Well, I know for me, on my side of the ECA, I haven't seen anything of significance based on what the budget would have been what said in terms of projects. Talking about the commercial space in Grenville, there, nothing has been done. The Claboni Road, which is a road up to the Sulphur Spring and to the farms and so on, nothing yet has been done. So from my end, I haven't seen anything that was done as it regards to the budget, except for we just seeing like the government just getting involved in loans and so on for upgrading of airports and that type of thing at the midst of a pandemic and that and so on. But again, one of the things that struck me during the budget presentation was realizing there's a small amount of allocation of funds to health, especially in my area, which is a big area, St. Andrews. The Maribor Princess Alice Hospital, which I noticed was, I raised it in the parliament, which was just about $3 million, as compared to St. George's, which is over $40-something million. Which is, I mean, looking at when you're in comparison, it's by far way too low. And then again, we saw the psychiatric hospital in St. George's allocation was over somewhere around 7 million. And we just having 3 million. And we, in St. Andrews, the Princess Alice Hospital provide a service to even people from St. John's come to the hospital. St. Patrick's, in St. Andrews, and St. David's. So those are some of the things that are, highlighted. And I'll let Senator Joseph mention also things.
Yeah, sometimes people don't realize that the people from Cloger, they access the health facility in Maribo very, very often. And that is just because of the geographical location. It's easier to get to Maribo than to get to St. George's. The question is it's a very interesting question because, and this is why the Senate needs to meet even more often to see exactly where we are at. You have the budget is a guide. We need to know what the timelines are, and we need to know exactly where we are in terms of how we go. Because you see, what can happen is that a document can be presented, but as we move along, we have so many things happening, and there can be so many chops and changes. We need to be aware of these things, and if we are not meeting to ask questions and to make statements, then we have a problem. We have a problem. Because when you look at even St. John here, nothing much is happening. Nothing much is happening. And if things are happening, I can relate to it. I can't put my finger and say this is something that came directly from the budget. I understand the recurrent expenditure. I mean, fine, the teachers have to be paid, the nurses have to be paid, but in terms of anything going on, there's nothing seems to be going on. Just the regular routine sort of stuff. So it strikes us that the Senate and the discussion is just not there in relation to the budget.
That being said, given the fact that we in this COVID-19 period, there's many things that would have come to the fore as a consequence of COVID-19. What do you see to be some of the major challenges that we face as a country and as a nation, and what are some of the critical things that government needs to be undertaking in order to address some of these things?
Pablo, the government got it wrong for years now. They got it wrong for years. And now we are seeing the effect of they getting it wrong over the years. Now, COVID is strangling every tourism-based economy in the Caribbean. It's strangling it. From the Bahamas right down to us. Now, there are a number of lessons to be learned from COVID. We don't have to be in that situation forever. That is a wake-up call for the politicians and for the policy makers and for the policy deliverers. Now, if we got it right years ago, for example, if we developed our agriculture and fishing sector, then COVID was not going to be too much of a problem. But when you put all your eggs in one basket, and it seems as though more and more eggs are going into that basket, and there is a shock on that industry, then we see the result. We see the result. Look, for example, and let me just say it. I am a director of the GCA. And right now, we have sale for nutmegs. The price might be a little bit depressed. But if we had volume, then we are going to compensate for the low price. Now, let's look at St. John, for example. The farmer from Cloger goes to go up and sell nutmegs. And what happens? He gets $300 in the pool. And by the time he leaves Guelph, he has $50 in his pocket. That money goes into circulation immediately. For every dollar the GCNA gets, 80 cents goes directly into the farmer's pocket. And that 80 cents goes into the economy as soon as that farmer gets it. So it goes around. Whereas on the contrary, in the tourism sector that the government focused on so much over the years, every dollar that is made in tourism, approximately 80 cents goes out. So it's the opposite with the agricultural sector. You see, so we created a situation over time, and now we are feeling the consequences of it. And in addition to that, Pablo, we have a situation developing right now where workers within the sector, the tourism sector, because we have nothing else to fall back on. They are being pressured now, literally pressured into taking the vaccine. If you don't take the vaccine, you can't go to work, and so on. And all this happens because of poor economic policies in the past. You develop one sector and then you ignore the other one. Let me just say this, and I'll just take it in one time. The Extension Department of the Ministry of Agriculture, which is so critical, and agriculture is very dear to me, which is so critical, is literally dead. How you could have an agricultural sector without that kind of support system in place? We are now hiring, and probably we'll get to that later, we are hiring advisors to advise in what? In which area? And at the same time, the people who are supposed to be working with the farmers, they are getting less and less and less. People are retiring. There is no succession plan, no replacement for these people. And these things are not happening by guessing. This because the people at the top, they know exactly what's going on. They're not stupid. They're not stupid. It's just where the interest really is. Yeah. So all this helped to put us in that situation now, that COVID situation, where the economy is virtually is heading towards bankruptcy and towards collapse. Because poor policies. Yeah.
Let me just add,
Yes,
Pablo.
Noel. Yeah,
because I spoke a lot as well. In regards, I'm passionate about agriculture myself. I myself being a registered farmer, and so on. And all the exports, what I've noticed, and the economists and so on around the world have been advocating for agriculture, saying this is a critical time in the world, and they see fit that agriculture should be one of the main pillars going forward in any economy. And yet still the government is still talking about tourism. Nothing of significance important have been done in regards to agriculture. And notice I'm not saying that you should totally forget the tourism industry sector. It has its place. But at this point in time, we're talking about food import bill, over $60 million, and that's maybe old statistics, we're talking about. And hence the reason why I spoke about St. Vincent earlier on, because of my admiration for the interest, a strong interest in agriculture and building a strong agrarian society or economy. And I'm saying this thing now because what is happening in St. Vincent, I'm thinking about it today, may have significant impact on us as well. Because I think the people from Pitimatnik and Carriacou, most of the produce comes from that, from St. Vincent. Not only that, and not only that, but I'm thinking of in terms of the fact that they are involved so much in agriculture and livestock and so on. A vast majority of our beef is imported from St. Vincent. The gentleman who owns the cow pen, Jude, and that's where he used to be the main trader in beef coming from St. Vincent. So I'm looking at the ash now on the plants. I'm thinking that the plants would die this year. They would have a low, I think things would be good for them this year in terms of the ash affecting the plants. Also animals, I'm thinking about. Animals would be affected because how are these animals going to eat? And it will have a significant impact on us as well, to a certain extent, especially where meat and the beef is concerned. So agriculture, I believe, should be one of the things that the government should be focusing on first and foremost, and they're still not paying attention to it. The only effort is to restart the tourism sector, and that's all the interest is in at this moment.
In light of this situation, the challenges that we face, the variety of things that we see happening, and the manner in which, as you just mentioned, Senator Noel, the manner in which our government tends to treat with some of these things, what kind of mindset do you think is needed by us as citizens and voters of the country in order to be able to hold these people responsible, to take them to task, to make them live up to their commitments and live up to the responsibilities that they have committed to as a consequence of the position that they hold? What kind of mindset do you think is needed for us to address these issues?
Pablo, you know, brother, you talk about mindset, and it's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing because we have created a new mindset. When I was growing up, my father knew that he had children and he had to work. It's a different thing now. Now, I think it was Stalin who said that you could take all the feathers off a fowl, all the feathers off a fowl, and give it a few grain of corn, and it will follow you. It will follow you. The fowl will not see you, the one who feathered it. It will continue to follow you. And this is why this mindset thing is so important. People seem to be losing it in that they're not understanding what has been created around them to have them the way they are. And as a result, it's very, very difficult for them to see the light. And once you see the light, you see the need for change. So first of all, this mindset has to be changed where people think that somebody has to give them something rather than they having to produce something. And then the people at the top, so to speak, the people who are the policy makers, they understand what's going on at the lower level within the society. They know what they are doing wrong and what they are doing right. They know. But everything is about political expediency and political survival. So they are keeping the majority of the people in a particular lockup, so to speak. And as a result, they continue to thrive. But everybody is not the same. Everybody is not the same. There are people who might be in the minority who is seeing exactly what is going on. And we have to try to effect change from whichever point we can, even though it means talking to people on a one-to-one. But we just can't continue. We just can't continue going down that road because, listen, we are heading for a failed state. I mentioned it in the parliament and some people were not very comfortable with it. We are heading towards a failed state because any country that cannot, first of all, cannot feed itself, we are heading on that road. Secondly, if your economy is based on selling passports, beg and borrow, it means that we are heading down a slippery slope to a failed state status. You know, I mentioned some time ago, look, stadium, we couldn't build it, so we begged somebody for it. Parliament, we couldn't build it, parliament building, so the Australian, and I think it's the UAE or whoever it is, had to help us build it. Almost everything we do here, we have to construct a bridge, we have to go and look for a loan, or we have to ask for some aid. Anything that is not even major, we have to go out there and beg and borrow. And people are not seeing this because of failed policies. And if we don't do the right thing to arrest that situation, we are going to continue to go downhill. We are going to continue to go downhill, and the consequences will be grave later on. So I do hope that some people will see the light sooner or later and then try to change things around. But that mindset thing is a hell of a thing. The good news is, Pablo, is that that's not how we work as a people. We became that way over time, so we could change. We can change and go back to the thinking in the past, where we knew that we had to produce our way out of poverty. As a family, you do it, and as a country, you do it. There is no other way, because the passport business seems to be doing pretty well. But how many citizens are you going to have in terms of the CBI? What, 1 million, 2 million? Where are we going to end? Where are we going to end? So we just can't continue. We just can't continue. We're going for a little while, but we can't continue forever.
Senator Noel, you may also make some comments on this, but I I want to begin to take that a little further. I want to get some insights from you on as to the present industrial unrest between our unions and government.
Well, I'm in total solidarity with the union and the teachers and so on, especially at this time where I think it is even more needed, because these people who are working, they are feeling the brunt of it, because they happen to take care of additional members of their family again who have lost jobs. And in regards to the teacher, I feel their pain too, because, I know how it is. I teach at COSA at MCC. I'm a temporary lecturer there. I think Senator Joseph used to be a teacher as well. And I know how it is. It's a difficult job. The fact that you're shaping young minds and you're actually responsible for the future of this country, And I would say, like, a teacher is so many things. A teacher is a parent. A teacher is a counselor. You have to be trained to know how to understand what's going on with these kids in regards to maybe physical or whatever psychological abuse in the family, and you have to be a counselor in the first instance before they actually get to the real counselors. And you have different things. You're having to take money off your pocket to feed these children, the vulnerable students who probably don't have food in school. You're having to do majority of your work is actually done outside of the school. You're preparing the work, for the week, and like preparing exams. You actually correcting exams and assignments and so on is a daunting task. I mean, some people may say, well, they have a long holiday and so on and stuff like that. But remember, at the end of the day, teachers have parents at home as well and have a family. And they having to deal with different personalities when they're in school. It's not an easy job. It's almost like a prison officer dealing, with children with different behavior and so on and things to deal with. So I support them. I support the 4%, and I believe the government should, is legally owed to them, and they deserve it. And what is even more interesting is in my view, is the action of the government saying that they cannot pay it and they don't have the money. But what we are seeing that the government is doing, buying over Grand Lake and so on, when they had the opportunity to pay much less for the company, whatever in the vicinity, you think it might cost them maybe over $300 million to in total to repurchasing of the company, because here they would inherit certain things from the WRB, which is the loan, $57 million in a loan inherit, $40 million in debt paid in dividends to workers and so on. You're talking about legal fees up to over $30 million. Then they have to replace the engine and so on and all these sort of things, and we could go on and on. And then on top of that, they took a loan again, despite they saying it's capital expenditure and so on, took a loan to upgrade the airport. And I would have think to myself that a more progressive thinking government would have taken a loan, and maybe before now or just upgrade the airport, because there are all upgrades in the Caribbean. Barbados and St. Vincent have a new airport, and even with the margins of the St. Vincent new airport, I thought a progressive thinking government would have do the necessary things that they would have had to do back then, than wait after St. Vincent would have opened the new international airport to say, no, we have competition, so it's necessary and it have to be done. You know what I mean? And we could go on and on. We're talking about the just rehiring of Alexander Otway Noel, and these things comes with perks and so on. The traffic lights is over millions of dollars, and we have we have been without the traffic lights. So why it is? I mean, I'm all for development, but I'm just talking about the timing of these things in the midst of a pandemic, and so on. And we just hearing again about the hiring of a CEO in the Grenada Tourism Authority, which is somebody from Barbados and so on, foreign person. I know for a fact there are people that I went to school with who study, who did degrees in tourism and so on. So I don't understand why is it that we have to be looking outside and so on. As I just saw something they're saying she's an international marketer and so on and so on. But now at this stage, there is no tourism at this stage. So why this at the same time? Why that frustrates the workers? Because at the same time you're telling them we don't have money, but when we see the actions of the government, that compounds the issue. owing to the fact that we see what they're doing, spending monies all over, taking loans, and some of these loans, by the way, like in case of the airport, there's one from the Exim Bank, which is $177 million. No moratorium. So soon as the government finish the upgrade, you have to start paying this loan right away. There is an additional $45 million loan, which is 10 years moratorium, which is something they should try to renegotiate these loans, because at least the World Bank is a little bit better, and they have a 10-year period in which to start to pay back for this loan. But in the case of the Exim Bank of China, there's no moratorium. So as soon as the construction, or as soon as the upgrade has finished, then the government has to actually pay. And now we're seeing that no revenue really coming in from the airport now, because there's no tourism. And the government, how much is it giving? I think it's $1 million per month or something to 1 million to up to the airport. So this is, what I have to say on the BC.
Yeah, if I should just come in here.
No problem.
The problem with the teachers is government made by the Grenada government. This thing started with the docking of the teacher's salary. And the government, to me, they don't understand. And so many of them are teachers. I've been around teaching for a number of years, 3 decades. So I understand the thinking. As Senator Noel rightly said, teachers give so much of the time. The teachers had an issue, and they remained away from the job for some time. And the government took out a portion of their salary, not even thinking that there would be implication. So the teachers decided, well, hey, all right, you could do that. So the extra, what I used to do, I'm going to reduce it or cut it out completely. And this thing has tremendous impact. It has tremendous impact. For example, when I was in the system, school will over at 2:30, but we stay around the school until 5 o'clock, doing bits and pieces and so on. But when your salary is docked, you create what you call a demotivating situation. And this demotivating situation has implications, and it has serious implications. Because a child is not a cardboard box you could leave by a neighbor and say, I'm going to collect it tomorrow. No. You have to deal with children in a particular way. And whatever you do now affects them down the road. Let's look, for example, at athletics. Before the COVID situation came on, and before the 4% came on, the teachers decided, well, hey, I'm not going to be in the park in the evening until 6. And what happened to the whole athletics program? Everything went quiet. And some kids would, during their school life, COVID took 2 years away from them in terms of athletics. The docking took another year. So a child going into Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, and he's missing out on certain things. And these things are easy to fix. But when the politicians will go and say, hey, they didn't go to work, so I save $1.4 million for the state. I mean, come on, you get it wrong. You must get it wrong. Because you didn't save anything. You did not save anything, because when you look at the multiplying effect of that 1.something billion in terms of the children, right? You can't measure it in a tangible way. But when you measure it, then it's a lot. In relation to the 4%, I think the problem here is trust. And the worst thing what could happen in any country is where the people don't trust the government. They say one thing on this side of the mouth, and tomorrow they say something else on the other side of the mouth. No, we can't pay, but then we could find to pay certain people. So it's a matter of picking and choose who are going to deal with. On all these teachers and MDs and all of that and the public. But let me tell you something. Sometimes I think the government doesn't understand. The teachers on the street and some of the public workers. And then you have the police working with them. But the police also getting the 4% if it's been paid. The police are also part of that 4%. So, it's interesting the way we think and the way we work. I heard a nurse say, teachers, go for it, because I want my 4% too. You understand? And the nation is behind this thing, but some people tend to play cheap politics. And let me just show you a punchline that they use. They have a salary, and you don't have one. They want more, So when I give them more, then I have less for whatever social program I have. And some people tend to buy into that. Oh, these people greedy. But no, nobody greedy. The fact of the matter is there was a negotiation and the 4% was an agreement. And again, sometimes the way we approach and the way we behave. The teachers are intellectuals. That's the intelligentsia of the country, basically. And all we need to do is to sit down with the teachers and discuss the situation rather than saying, I will do this and I will do that. I will pay you in December, I will do this and I will do that. I think right now the house is out of the stable a long, long time in relation to that negotiation. And I don't know. Somebody might have to catch it in tongue, running down towards points and then carry it back. But it's gone. It's gone a long way. So there's a lot of work to take it back. But trust is key. And a lot of us don't trust the utterances of the government. But I do hope as a nation, we could resolve this and get past it, and let's get the whole education system up and running again. Because school will reopen next week, and nobody knows what will happen then. Because you have children who are doing their CXC sometime during the course of the year, and then they are affected. They are affected. But to me, the technocrats and the politicians, they're not seeing certain things. And in addition to that, just before I wrap, I heard about some day of prayer or something for the children or with the children before school open. And I was saying the people who want the prayers, maybe they're not seeing it. But I don't think the children and the schools need the prayers as much as some of the people who say they are leaders in this good country. I think they need more prayers than anybody else. Okay.
With all this talk of the education system, we see that with the coming of the COVID-19, that e-learning has become a more significant component of our education system and the process involved in our education. What, from your vantage point, how have you found that to have worked so far? What are some of the challenges that you are aware of, and what do you think needs to be done in order to improve on the situation that we face?
Well, nothing could replace the classroom. Nothing could replace the classroom. I am confident about what I'm saying here now. Because you see, learning is an exercise that have different components in it and different facets. Now, the social part of it is key. What we realize happening in our society, even before COVID, is that kids were staying more and more inside after school because they have the gadgets that they use. And the socializing aspect of growing up was being reduced. Now, with the onset of COVID, it became worse. Because now it is not a voluntary situation, but it's virtually a situation that was created where it has to be done. Some of the children, they have the discipline to work virtual. They have the discipline to work virtual. Some of them have the family support to help them to get through the virtual learning. But that number is not great. And you have a number of children now, one, who doesn't have access to the e-learning. Either they don't have a gadget, they have problem in using it. Some children are just mischievous, they juke things, they mash things up and so on. And some of them, their parents, they can't ask them a question because the parents don't know, so there's other challenges again. So there's a number of challenges that are there. Some students are making the best of it, but a lot of them are suffering because of that. And I do hope that sooner rather than later we could get back to some kind of normalcy, and the children the gadgets will always be there, and the e-learning will always be there, but some kind of normalcy where is socializing or the social aspect of schooling coming back into play.
Let me add to it, Pablo here, because I agree, fully agree with Senator Joseph here that nothing replaces the classroom. Because I'm teaching, a TAMCC course which is virtual here online, and we understand it's COVID and so on, and you have to find innovative ways to do things. But what I've noticed, one of the negatives of it is that you have all these students online, and they sign on, and you know that they come on online, but it is not mandatory that they put their cameras on. And as he just mentioned, it's a challenge for some students, because some students are barely even getting a little Wi-Fi by a neighbor or something to get on, and they keep on being kicked out of the internet, back and forth, and some probably having to even go in different environment to log on to get to attend to the class. But then again, we have the situation where some students, you allow them the opportunity to pretend, because the fact that they log on and you've seen their name on, which means they're supposed to be in the class, but they could just turn their system on and they're somewhere outside playing or watching a movie, and you may try to ask questions here and there and so forth, but how much could you do? I mean, they in some environment that you don't know the environment that they're in, and there lies the challenge. I remember when we first was trained to do the course, the virtual thing, I was told that they were supposed, which I believe, that they should have turned the cam on. But then again, that there is a challenge, as Senator Joseph would have mentioned, because of the struggle that they would have had, some not having limited access to internet and so on, and the little internet that they get. And even those who are in school, like in TAMCC and so on, the system or the internet is not good enough. So they keep on dropping off when all the students are in the school at the same time, which is a problem. When they are home, it's a little bit better. But again, like I say, that gives room for students to miss class, or to pretend that they're in class and they're really not in class, and they just turn their things on because they don't necessarily have to turn their cam on. I was told that in the university it's mandatory, otherwise they'll be put out of the class if they don't turn it on. But in some cases, in our cases, based on what I was told, they don't have to put it on. So like I say, you'd have students pretending that they're in the class, and you have the challenge now that sometimes they're not even in the class. And so here lies the problem. But at the same time, the benefits of it is that all the information is uploaded, so they could always check the information when they need it and so on, and read the information. But are they really doing that? Like Senator Joseph mentioned about the discipline. The students who are high-level discipline students would benefit from those things. But those students, as a teacher, Senator Joseph would know as well too, you have to be on the back all the time. You have to see them. You see them all around street, and you have to push them at it. So you don't have that opportunity when you're on the virtual. You don't really see, I don't really see them, because I don't really have to go into the school, often. So there's some negatives, and and possibly that the negative way of from the positives. So there lies the problem in regards to virtual teaching.
Well, we run that. Challenges, and more challenges. I see Senator Noel I believe on your Facebook page, I see you posing with a guitar. You're some kind of musician, and I believe you're also a member of a chat room that's in that highlights karaoke singing.
Yes,
you participate in karaoke also. You like Mr. Michael Battisti loves his karaoke. And speaking of that, I saw recently that he posted something where he spoke about not being permitted to put on a karaoke event, while there's karaoke events taking place at various locations, some of which he also participates in. But he was not allowed to put on a karaoke event, and he's claiming there's a double standard. And we see other people are making these claims about the double standard as it relates to the COVID-19 protocols, while some people in certain sectors, certain areas are allowed to do as they wish, and other people are being penalized and not being not being granted the permission to do similar events that others are doing without any hindrance. What is your take on these allegations of double standards on behalf of government?
I mean, I would say if it is done, the government needs to stop it. you know. It is really unfortunate and it's unfair to have people or business places that is connected to the government or friendly to the government and so on. And then have other people, we are all Grenadians and everybody is entitled to all the benefits that we could afford. Again, in a highly pressurized situation with COVID and the stress that goes with it, the psychological impact with people looking for a little way to relieve some little stress. It's unfortunate because I've been around some of these karaoke's and so on, and there are times the police officers will pass and check and they move on. But it's very unfortunate to have somebody like, which means it's politically motivated. To have somebody like, everybody knows, Michael Batiste is a karaoke fanatic. And so to deny him that opportunity, it have to be politically motivated, and that's not good at all, and that's not good for democracy. Just because the fact that he's been opposing and highlighting some important issues, where our development and so on Grenada is concerned with politics. And of recent too, I've been in an organization that had applied for a pass too, and they have a slight little political little affiliation, and they were denied as well. So it appears as though these things are actually happening. And the government, if it is done, whoever is in charge need to put C into it. When we look at it, the Commissioner of Police didn't allow it. And they need to take, this thing needs to be, it's serious. And it's unfortunate, and it's sad, and it's unfair, it's unfair. And the people have to survive. People have to survive in this country. If only one set of people are given the opportunity to survive and to conduct their business, then what are you saying to the population? So that's what I have to say on it.
Yeah, let me just chime in here a little bit. Now, there's an old saying that what is sauce for the goose should be sauce for the gander, right? And I think this is it's a very interesting saying. But in Grenada, it doesn't appear that way. What seems to be happening? And the people in control seem to be the key leaders in this thing. Now, when you give one set of people permission and you refuse another one, then the question arises, why? Why not me? Or why me? You see, let's look, for example, at what I was reading something this morning in terms of activity in the north of the country. You have COVID protocol, COVID regulations, and COVID this and COVID that in place. And yet, what I was reading this morning, it is cause for concern, because you see, I will tell you, when there is no order, what happens is that we move into the next realm, which is disorder. And once disorder starts and you don't check it early, it moves on into confusion and mayhem. And then the pulling back is difficult. So you can't have rules and you can't have laws, and then you cannot execute and implement the laws. It doesn't make any sense. The laws are there on the books, but it was not meant to be on the books. It is meant to be applied. But you hear of situations where people fighting all night in an environment that could be, public spread of the virus. But because you support X or you support Y, you get certain privileges over the other. And I am sure some of the police officers are not comfortable. They are not comfortable. But this is what's happening. This is what's happening. So we need, we need to take a look at it. And we all are citizens of this country. And I cannot understand why Mr. X will get a permission to hold an event and Michael Batiste wouldn't get it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But that is a dangerous direction in which we are we are going. People sometimes criticize the old colonial government. But during the old colonial period, when the chief of police says something, it applies to everybody. I'm not a very young person, and I understand that. It applies to everybody. But now, when something has to happen in a particular community, you find people calling politicians. And what the politicians should simply do is to tell them, no, this is a legal matter, or this is a police matter. But the politicians pacifying and trying to please people and so on, and as a result, we ended up in that kind of situation. Now, when an event could take place in the north of the country, last night, and no big deal. What happens when the people go off say, well, are playing carnival this year, and nobody's stopping me? You see, when we set precedents, and it becomes very, very difficult to control. Very difficult to control. I hope the politicians are listening. I really hope so.
And on top of that, based on what you were saying there, what happened in the north, it turned out that it appears a high level of violence, was displayed over there in terms of where we have talking about firearm being discharged and so on. I'm not 100% certain, but I've seen that on the social media and so on, where apparently that was the case coming towards around 1 o'clock, between 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, around during that night. So much so that it appears though even a police officer was injured. So this is the reports again coming out of that, and so see the unfair treatment again. And
what is very interesting is we're under a curfew period, right? And the curfew begins at 12 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So nobody should be on the street. No one should be on the street after 12, except you have some kind of permission from the authority. But that's Grenada we live in. That's the Grenada we live in.
That's the Grenada we're living in. Now, speaking of all these things and speaking about this double standard and the whole issue of intimidation and victimization, it really spells out where we at in terms of our governance agenda and in terms of our development agenda. And both of you actually have given indicators as to some of those things that are impacting negatively on both elements of our nationhood. And Senator Joseph have gone to the extreme to say that we're sliding quickly down into a failed state. What are some of the perspectives for change of such a government? It means, therefore, that a government that is sliding down the road of a failed state needs to be changed. So what are some of the perspectives for bringing about that change, and what kind of messaging and what kind of activities or events we need to be getting into if we are to realize that change?
We need a change, and the change will come. It will come. The question is when. The question is when. But we just can't continue that way. You know, all the days I mentioned about political deficit, right? Mm-hmm. Political deficit. And if you look at the ruling party, look at it. You know, I sit in the Senate and I watch across the table. And I saw a young guy there by the name of Senator Cadet. And I think Senator Cadet is a wonderful person. I think he's a person with very, very good intention. But yet, what you find happening is this. I mean, there are young people like Senator Cadet within the ruling party. But look at what happened. The Prime Minister or the leader of the party, whoever it is, go back into a situation where they brought back the ex-minister from St. Mr. Bula. Mm-hmm. If there was no political deficit, there should have been an easy replacement, getting somebody from within to take that position of senator. Mr. Bula was a minister. And now look at what happened. The lady from south of the border, I refer to her. They go south of the border and bring in somebody as an advisor. Political deficit. Or as if it's not political deficit, it means that we are not creating political opportunities for the young people within that particular construct. This is why I felt I feel so bad for Senator Cadet and people like him who have some potential, but because of the way the situation, we create this deficit and then we have to go back to the old stock to bring them back into the system. But how can we get change? How can we get change? First of all, we need the opposition forces need to organize a little stronger and a little better. Because I'm getting the feeling that the opposition forces are not reaching out, especially to the younger population as a should. And as a result, we are sort of losing that vast potential of young people that we have there. And we are losing them to nothingness, if I should put it that way. We are losing them to nothingness. And once they are lost to nothingness, we know where they will go. And probably in the last program we had, I mentioned this, about a young guy I gave a ride in my car. And he said to me that, I love NNP. This is what he said. He said, I love NNP. I said, why? And I was waiting for his response. He said, man, Mr. Joe, I love the ruling party. He said, man, they have a vibes. He said, they have a vibes. I said, so you love them because of the vibes? What is the vibes they have? He said, I don't know, but they have a vibes. And I like the vibes. So I said to him, I said, you don't run a country on a vibes. He said, I don't care, I feel any vibes. And I like it. So this is what I mean when I say we are losing a generation here. Because there is no rationality in what this young man is saying. But he is gravitating towards that vibes. So we need to get that block, that 60 or 65% of the population, to reorient their thinking so they wouldn't gravitate towards that vibe, because our vibes do not build Grenada. You know, so that's the other thing we have to do. So the political parties out there have some work to do in terms of changing that kind of mentality and that kind of mindset. And once that happens, then we could effect the change. But let me just extend this a little bit, Pablo. We in the parliament, we have to do what we can also. We have to do what we can. Everybody may not listen to us. But you know, every journey starts with one step. Every fire starts probably with just one spark. So we have to do what we can and hope that what we are doing can resonate and people can attach themselves to what we are doing in terms of building a better nation. But there's a lot of work to be done. And we cannot push our head in the sand as an ostrich and pretend, oh, this, and know that we have to get out there and do what we have to do. Yeah.
So Pablo, Pablo, could I add? We have time? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so my take on it is that in everything I believe there is a positive and there is a negative. It's just like physics, in order to get the light bulb to light, there must be the battery, there, some generator, there's something connected to the positive and the negative or whatever, and you get some energy there. And my view is that the main opposition force in the country is part of the problem, the main problem. I believe that they're too conservative, also too selfish. I think they push a lot of good potential people away. I used to be connected with them at one point in time. I'm no longer connected to them, as Senator Joseph would have mentioned. However, I believe Grenadians are looking forward to something new. And some people are saying a third thing is not the way to go, and so on and so on. But I'll say that the opportunity arises in Grenada where these things have happened before. When the new drill movement came in, with some young, vibrant, intelligent intellectuals came in and changed the status quo, and at that time got the youth to rise up and to support them. So I believe maybe it may come down to unity, but I see the main opposition forces as part of the problem. It's something that I can help but see, and I really believe if it continues in that way, then that is actually part of the problem, where the New National Party will remain in office. So I believe we need something with some vibrancy, more open-minded, and so on, with a new perspective and a new philosophy, new type of development in pushing Grenada forward, so that people would gravitate towards it. Also with a new vibe, you know what I mean? With some vibes in it. You have to have some vibes, as the young gentleman would have told Senator Joseph. So that's where I'm at, and you would probably see me in anything where alternative, something to do with an alternative, where people are looking for alternative, rather than the norm where the NDC and so on is concerned. I'm not connected to them, and I believe that something serious some serious shaking up have to take place, and something new have to emerge with a new alternative for people to gravitate to, with some new vibes, and that's where I see it. And I see it as part of the problem. If it doesn't happen, then things will just continue the same way. And maybe in the end, we'll have some kind of amalgamation and a united force in the end to take on the new national party, because change is really needed. And this is the time. I think the ground is fertile for it. It is needed, and people are talking about it, and I think that is the way to go.
I want to follow up with you on that new party perspective, on that new party philosophy. It is not something that I'm hearing for the first time. It is something that I see that is very, very prominent actually on social media. It is not new. It's been around for a few years now. What do you think is the hindrance in terms of this new entity coming to the fore, Senator Noel? What do you think is hindering them? Because if the sentiments is so strong that what we need is a new entity with that kind of vibrancy, what do you think has stopped it from becoming reality up to this point in time? And do we see anything in the making, anything around the corner within the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years that can give us the hope and the expectation that we can be seeing something of that nature coming to the fore?
I do believe before 6 months for sure, I think we will see something. Based on what I'm, picking up, based on what I'm hearing, based on what I'm connected to. I don't want to go into detail to speak, let everything out, but things are in the making, and you have to realize that they have to put structures and certain things in place. Some of these people are doing that now. Okay. Also, I'm told that there are other things they are organizing. I'm told that the GLP are very much organized overseas. They. Well, you laugh about it, but seriously, based on what I'm picking up, they're really organized and ready to land. So when they land, they might land hard. But I don't see the GLP as picking up any steam in Grenada again. I don't know what they could do to pick up any steam, but they seem as though they're really organized out there. But I'm not, affiliated with them and so on. I'm affiliated with something here. I think the TGM is a good alternative to go with. The
TGM is not a political party.
Well, they're not a political party.
TGM is an NGO.
Right. It's an NGO group. I think they will transform in some time, a short period of time, and I think maybe with amalgamation of them, other small political organizations, these things may happen in the not too distant future. I think well before. I'm seeing these things happening well before 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I think necessity is the mother of what? Invention, all invention. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but my thing is that let's hope whatever comes out is in the greater good, the greater good for this country, because we need some change. We need some change, and a lot of people have a good heart towards this country, and they will do whatever it takes to change things. So let's see what happens. Accommodation might be a possibility. What I do hope is that ego doesn't step into the politics, because it's a very dangerous thing for the politics, and a very dangerous thing in terms of nation building. So let us look at the greater good in whatever political direction things go. But let's look at the greater good. Yeah.
Okay, so that being said, we have been going for over 90 minutes now, and we want to bring the curtains down on the comfort zone for this afternoon. But before we do, any final words from you two goodly gentlemen?
I just want to leave it with my, Grenada to pray for St. Vincent and so on. I'll leave it with St. Vincent. Our prayer and thoughts out there, and taking into consideration too that the fact that we have an underwater volcano here in Grenada, so we have to pay attention to what's happening there. And I'm told that underwater volcano could even be more dangerous with tsunamis and so on. Because when I looked at the power, the last 2 or 3 eruptions in St. Vincent, and even on a massive scale, imagine with the power under the water could cause tsunamis and so on. We could even not only affect Grenada, but affect other territories and so on. So the Caribbean have to pay attention to these things. And my thoughts, and prayers again out to these people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and so on, especially where the fact that I admire them for their, their strong indulgence in the agriculture, building agriculture, economy and so on, and where livestock and so on would be under threat here in Grenada now, because that's where our main trade comes from in terms of beef production and so on. So I'll, my prayers and thoughts will be with them, and I hope the Grenadian public, as even if we have to, as where we could help, wherever help necessary we could give, in terms of people evacuating and so on, all of that. So my prayers and thoughts will remain with them and Grenadian people to be praying for them.
Yeah, well, our government has already indicated that they're willing to accept people, but it has to be people who have already been vaccinated that will be accepted. Yes, Senator Joseph.
Yeah, I do. My prayers do go out to the people in St. Vincent also. The government seem to be making some utterances in terms of the Vincentians coming here, if need be. I just want to say that I'm not too sure the Vincentians will take us very seriously. I will tell you why. Some time ago, there was a massive explosion in Ashtons and Union Island, and the government made some promises, and I didn't hear anything much about it after that. So I think the Vincentians might be listening very, very loudly to what we are saying now. If we decide to take in the Vincentians, I do hope that the population will be willing to lend whatever assistance they can to those people. The people may be getting food, place to stay and so on, but the psychological part, it's very difficult sometimes to deal with, and a whole set of resource personnel need to be in place before we could say yes, because remember, these people would be displaced and have varying needs, and probably slightly culturally different also, and with children and schooling and a whole set of works. It's not a very easy, it's a monumental task, so we need to think it over and think it deep, because we could have a lot of problems unforeseen happening. I just want to, in closing, say that myself and Senator Noel and Senator Tessa, we are in the Senate, and our objective is to make Grenada a better place, and we are going to do that. We are not going to sit there and allow certain things that we think are not right for this nation to take place. I always believe that I cannot change the world, Senator Noel can't change the world, neither Senator Sincere. But if we can all brighten our corners, it means that at the end of the day, we are going to make a difference. And I just want to say that over the last 3 months or so, since I entered the Senate, I've been getting a lot of reviews from people who listened to my first presentation, and I call it reviews because some were a bit negative, some were positive, but I view negative reviews as advice, because within what is said, if you look carefully or closely, if I say to you, your pants is not fitting properly, I'm giving you an advice. That is, you take a second look at that pants you put on. So this is the way I view it. So I do hope that I'll be able to make a very good contribution and continue to build this nation, because Grenada belongs to all of us. I mean, as a young man, I've been involved in a number of things. During the revolution, I was active. I was part of it. The revolution came, it went, and I still remain a Grenadian, and I still continue to participate. And I'm retired now, and I'm still in it. So I want to wish the nation all the best, and I'll just continue to do what I have to do to improve life for everybody.
Okay, so thank you very much, gentlemen. Senator Matthew Joseph, who you just heard from, and previously you were hearing from Senator Terry